Hey, what's going on? So this week we're taking our basic beat a little bit further from last week and the prior, all right? So we're really going to focus on what's going on with the bass drum, okay? We want to make sure that what we're doing with our hands becomes very consistent. Number one, we're focused on counting. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That equates to 8 notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Those 8 notes we call eighth notes. Notice how we're counting numbers every other note. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Those are the quarter notes, four, fourths, quarters, right? And we have those 8 notes that fit in between there, okay? So what we've got going on in these 8 notes, and our right hand is going to consistently count through and play through all of those. So every time we count one of those, our right hand is making contact with the hi-hat. We're crossing our hands out. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right? The other consistency we've got going on is this snare drum, the drum right here. We are playing that with our left hand underneath our right hand, and that's played on every 2 and every 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And this is all continuous. So together, we're playing this on every one of those 8 notes, the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Right hand on the hi-hat, and our left hand underneath that is on the 2 and on the 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And this is consistent. It constantly goes throughout. This does not stop. This is our norm. This is our regularity. This is really important to get comfortable with, to the point that, just like I'm doing right now, I'm talking through it. It's not something I have to overly think about. Every time we kind of level up in drums, treating it like a video game, is because we're so consistent and comfortable with what we're doing, and we're that good at it, we don't have to focus on it. So we can put the emphasis somewhere else. In this case, this stays constant, so we can focus our thoughts on the bass drum. All right? So play it slow, play it fast. You've got to do what's comfortable for you, that you can enough think about it without kind of slacking on what's going on up here. Because what we're going to do is we're really going to start to put the emphasis again on the bass drum. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Play it slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Even slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. All right, so now let's dive in. Let's focus on what's happening with the beat on the bass drum, okay? In this, we go to what we did a couple weeks back, where we played simply on the 1 and the 3. And that means that every time when I'm counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, the 1, whenever I count 1, and the 3, whenever I count 3, I hit the bass drum. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Let's pair it up with the hi-hat. And 2 and 3 and 4 and. What's cool is, notice how it's going opposite of what the snare drum's doing. The bass drum plays on the 1, the snare drum plays on the 2. The bass drum plays on the 3, the snare drum plays on the 4. They really kind of have a conversation back and forth easily between each. Alright, so that was our drum beat a couple weeks ago. Then last week, we shifted things a little bit. Instead of the bass drum playing on the 3, we brought it back 1/8 note earlier, and we played it on the and just before the 3. So then it sounded like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So what happened was, the 1 and the 3, we shifted that 3 back to the and before the 3. So we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And we start to kind of manipulate things a little bit, right? So this is what that sounded like with the hi-hat and the snare drum included. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So what's really cool we got going on is we're shifting, but we're doing something relatively similar between 2 weeks ago and last week. So those are those 2 different beats. Today we're going to combine that. The bass drum is still going to be on the 1, but this time we're going to play both the and before the 3 and the 3. So again, when I'm counting it, when I say 1, hit the bass drum. when I say 2 and that and comes just before the 3, play the bass drum plus the 3 right after it. So here's what it sounds like. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I would play this repetitively, really get used to and comfortable of where that's falling in. Now again, also the goal is really to have a lot of practice with just my 8th notes consistently counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 in the hi-hat, and my 2s and my 4s on the snare drum. The reason is I want to not have to overly think about what's happening here. So when I start doing this stuff, I can spend a little brain power focusing on the bass drum to make sure I'm playing it right without getting all contorted. I want my coordination to feel comfortable. All right? So here's how that sound really slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And take this out. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And back in. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now let's play the snare. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And here's what's going on. I'm allowing my hi-hat to be the guide. Notice how whenever the bass drum hits, the hi-hat hits as well. Now what I'm doing in my head is counting that out without consistently playing the hi-hat. But of course, we know that the hi-hat should never stop. Not for today's drum beat anyway. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And now let's hear the conversation between the bass drum and snare drum. Hear how that sounds. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You'll notice that this plays on 1, and the and, there's nothing here. Then it will play 2 and 3. So it's really cool because this is followed by those 2 bass drum hits. So this starts to give you the awareness of what's happening when there's spaces and it's just a hi-hat versus when you're going between the bass drum and snare drum. All right? So again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? And just play that pretty consistently as you get comfortable and then slowly speed it up. And make sure that you are always counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you'll find times where I drop out and stop counting in these videos, but that's more for you getting to hear exactly what's happening with this drumming, okay? It's important for you to have something to model it out, both in conversation, seeing me play it fast, play it slow, hearing individual pieces, pair it together. And then obviously everything faster. So kind of your goal is to slowly build up these tempos. Tempo is the word for speed. These are along the progress that we're going to make these basic drum beats as we build up the skill. What's really cool is after time, we realize that it doesn't just have to be this constant 8 notes, that there's cool things we could do with our snare drum, with our hi-hat, and that follow that same bass drum pattern, right? We want to get there by building confidence in this solid backbeat. And that's what we can finally explore, but not until we're really solid, to the point where we don't have to overly think about it. I can just play comfortably. Because when I've got the beat drum locked in, every drum, not having to think about the counting, then I can do cool stuff with my hands. Okay? So we want to make sure that we're feeling that. Anything we do, the original drum beat, last week's drum beat, combining them, our goal as a drummer is to keep solid time, to maintain this fluidness that happens between everything we're doing with our hands, with our legs. All right, we want to be solid. This is why counting is really important. It helps. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and consistently counting. And it doesn't have to always be out loud. It could be in our head, but that we're doing it so that it guides what's happening here. And as we feel more comfortable, we don't have to count as much anymore, and then eventually we don't have to think about what we're doing anymore. That's really where we're starting to master a groove or a drum beat, and then we can kind of add more elements to it. So don't try and get too crazy until we get locked in. All right? Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Let's make some drum beats together. All right? See you next time.